All right. It looks like we are live on all the platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram. Perfect. It is Friday night. It's going to be a little shorter stream than usual today, um, but it should still be a good time. And today's subject is penguins. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and open up a new file and get started. Just feel like painting some penguins today. Hope wherever you are that you're having a great day. Let me pull up that reference there. All right, and let's move this to there. Perfect. And let's check out Twitch. Move this over a little bit. There we go. All right. If you are here and you are watching, please feel free to comment and chat so that we can have a dialogue. That's what makes this more fun. I think I'm going to go with the... What do I want to sketch with? I guess I'll sketch with the Pastel C. Pick a dark color. All right. And just going to kind of rough in the composition here. Let's see. Got multiple penguins that I want to put in here. Got this guy over on this side, and his neck's doing this kind of curious twisty bend. I'll make his head a little bit bigger. And have his shoulder come off this way. And then his shoulder's going to come forward, and then got his wing hangs off this way. Like that. And his belly kind of bows out and caves back in. Okay. There's that one. Might even make him just a little bit thicker. Or maybe I'll just move him over. Something like that. That sounds good. And then, hey, Breadcrumbs. How are you doing today? Doing pretty well. Can't complain. Thanks for being here. Anything you feel like talking about, feel free to just put it in the chat. Questions or just general talk. It's always good. It's a little sharper. Any reference? Yep, I am using reference, photo reference that I've taken myself. I love going and using my own photo reference or reference that my wife has taken. My wife is a very great photographer, even though she doesn't have a business with it. But she's just really naturally gifted as a photographer. I love using her reference. This one's mine, though. I'll keep playing around with that shape until I get it how I like later. This one's looping back. And then there's actually another penguin within the silhouette of this penguin. And he's chilling. He's not as aggressive. A little further, I think. Have him overlap slightly along with his arm. And I'll have this belly come down just a little bit more to avoid the tangent. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I try to go for a sense of realism while still keeping that painterly quality. Like if you look at it from a distance and it looks like a photograph, but when you look up close you can tell it's a painting. That's what I like. Um, I'm not going for like super hyper realistic where people look at it and go, "Oh, nice photo," and I go, "Actually, it's a painting." Like I'm not. that's that's not what I want to do. All right, before I get too gung ho with this guy, there's another one, another penguin over this way. He's a little more off in the distance. And he's actually gonna poke off the screen there a bit. Let's see, get this. Actually, noticing, when you study an animal, a lot of times the longer you stare at it, the more you realize little subtleties that help it to stand out more. I think if I go like this and then have the belly come off and swoop way back this way. It's hard getting that shape just right. You know what I might do? I might do something different than I normally do. I might just block in before I detail. Might just get the thick colors. Oh, I didn't even realize there was another penguin in the background there. It almost looked like scenery. I'll go ahead and put him in too. Can't neglect the penguin. He's just over there. Preening his feathers. Ooh, excellent question. I believe these are South American penguins. And there's another penguin that's kind of off behind this one. He won't be featured much, but just to kind of add to the number of penguins in the image. Loads of penguins. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead of going overly detailed is going to add a layer, plop it beneath. Going to go up to this brush. I don't know what it's called because it's in Japanese or Korean. You've never seen one until now. Okay. Um, Here. That's the photo reference I'm using. Yeah, a little bit. It depends. There's lots of different breeds of penguins. These are actually the ones that I grew up getting used to because my local zoo where I grew up in Rhode Island had penguins, and they were South American penguins. Um, so I didn't even know that there was a difference. But I always thought it was strange how they swam in regular water and weren't surrounded by ice or anything cold. I was like, huh, I always thought penguins were in the Arctic, but those are Arctic penguins. So I think that's the one of the real differences is just the climate that they're used to living in. I don't know if there's any um, biological or structural differences. That would be something for me to look into, though. Okay, so I don't want to go complete black. I want to go like a kind of like a dark. I want it to be so dark brown that it looks black, but it's really in the black area. And that's going to give me, hopefully, the effect I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this in. And I'm not trying to be overly fancy or anything. And I know that they're not entirely black. They have a lot of white. But I can always paint over that, and I can see my lines, so I don't have to worry too much about overdoing it. I'll just go quick. We'll use the lighter colors for the white to help get some more definition. Something's off about this one. It might be the head size. All right. If I can get this silhouette working and it looks okay, then I'll feel confident going in and getting more detail. Uh, what app am I using to draw this? It is called Clip Studio Paint. I just have the Pro version. There's another one called EX that gives you some more features, which are good for like editing and layout if you're doing like comic panels. Um, it also allows you to do unlimited frames for animation. The one I have is more limited in those two areas, um, but not much else. So that's why I stick with it. Um, I have my iPad Pro, not Pro. I have an iPad Air, the latest model, that I can use Procreate Dreams for if I really want to animate something. So I don't need to put the extra money to get the EX for now. I might do it someday. I draw on a screen. It's a drawing monitor. I have the Huion Canvas 24 Plus. It's a 2K resolution monitor, and I really like drawing on it with a stylus. The best thing about the stylus is that it doesn't need a battery, but it's a nice big 24-inch screen. Okay, so I got the silhouettes. They're looking okay. So now I can start going in and adding some other colors. So on a separate layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm that up a little bit, and I'm going to aim for something that seems, I mean, this seems too dark, right? If we're just looking at that color, it's like, oh, that's not white. But if I start painting it in, look how white that looks. And so that might actually be even too bright. Might have to tone it down. I think I need to tone that down. A lot of color depends on what surrounds it. And so like you can pick a color and say, "Oh, that's definitely blue." And then when you put it down next to another color, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot more gray than I thought." Okay, we got his neck. Slants over to the side a little bit. Like that. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly uh not exactly, but it is relating to color theory for sure. Color theory, all it is understanding how colors work when placed with other colors. How do they convey light? Um, some of it dives into, what color does for mood, uh, how it affects people's psychology. But most of color theory is in relation to how it appears. All right, now I'll get a bigger brush, and we'll have his belly. Let's see. I think I might have made it too far over before, so I'll have to erase some of that or paint over it. It gets darker down this way, but I can use multiply to darken that. Thinking out loud. But yeah, already I'm starting to feel like I see the penguin a bit better than if I had spent too much time sketching it. this penguin has some white up in here, and then on his chest and let's do this guy. And then this one. Then shrink it down a little bit. Get this back one. So yeah, just little by little, this all starts coming together. And this is something I'm trying to put more into practice, which I've taken a tip from through a couple artists who run a animation studio called Tonko House. Robert Kondo and Dice Katsume. And they've worked on a lot of Pixar films, and they've done their own stuff. And they have a big tip on when you're starting to paint to focus primarily on value. Don't worry so much about the tiny details, but focus more on your lights and darks, and allow the light in your image to guide the painting. And I find that when I do that, I get much stronger results. Sometimes I forget myself and start going back to old habits, but this way almost never disappoints me. So I need to stick to it. But that lighting contrast really helps to sell the form of the image. If I was back teaching again, that's probably what I would stress for most of the year. Focusing on lighting and value. And there's one back here. I think that one's more or less doing the same kind of thing. Let me just check the other social media platforms, see if we got any activity there. All right. I think the next thing to do is maybe help establish more contrast in the background. So I'll go back to this layer. And let's add, let's see, it's kind of like a warm gray. Maybe something like that. Let's try it out. It's a bit big. It's a mix of colors, so I'm going to have to go back through and play around a little bit. And there's some darker spots. Those are going to be a little more small and concentrated. Hello. Hi, Tuna Fishing. Do I know who Tuna Fishing is? Have I met you in person before? There's someone I used to know who used to go by Tuna. Just wondering if it's the same person. Not necessarily in person. Okay. Well, welcome to the stream. Nice to have you here. So just kind of being loose and playing with the background. Definitely don't want to get overly detailed with the background. It's only there to provide setting for the subject, which is the penguins. The lighting is going to draw your eye to them, and if the background is too detailed, it will draw your eye away. Alright, so now I need to do a light color. This is going to be something like that. Now this might be too bright. We'll see. I think it's okay. Oh, thank you, breadcrumbs. Yep. I used to be a teacher, um, and the school that I worked for um, ended their online program, and during the pandemic, I moved away from their physical campuses, and so when they closed the online program, I wasn't able to stay with them, and so I used it as an opportunity to start my own company and try to make that work. It's a slow grind, it's a slow build, but more and more people are starting to notice me. And so, little by little, I'll make my dream a reality, even if I have to pick side jobs while I make it work. Oh, thank you. I've learned from really, really great people. Okay. Let's get some of that darker gray. Got some gray background textures in here. A little bit up in here. I'm pretty sure these are cast shadows from like trees and stuff around them. But the ground that's getting the direct light is so bright that it washes out the detail in those areas. It's only when you get those cast shadows that things start to break that up. Where else we got it? We got it in here with a darker edge down here. But yeah, in the meantime, as I keep building my my channel and my stuff, I have an online shop where I sell my art print on demand. So you can get like wall art prints, or you can get like mugs or t-shirts, hats, that kind of stuff. Little by little, working on it, building it, getting my name out there. Yeah, I did change it. Yep. The old layout wasn't working for me, so I tried something new. Now, something I really like about this brush is that it blends well with other colors that you've put down. And so I can see how I can kind of soften some of these hard edges. I don't want to soften all of them, but I can kind of blend it so that some of it goes out of focus, even more than it already is. All right, I'm going to go back and get this bright color again. And add some more of that bright area up here. How did I get my passion for drawing? Started with my dad. My dad, when he was alive, he was a bit of an artist himself, and he had uh, his own little area in the basement. It wasn't much, but he had peg boards right up against the walls, and so he would hang his art supplies on there, and he had a space on the floor where he would do painting, and had a drafting desk, and he did a lot of airbrush work as well as pencil work, ink work, and I would watch him paint, get really inspired by him, and then I'd go off and I would do my own little comics and drawings and illustrations and stuff. Um, One of the first things I ever did was, and this is like how long ago? I was like 6 years old, so almost 30 years ago. Um, I was drawing my own X-Men comics because back in the 90s when I was a kid growing up, uh, they had an X-Men cartoon that was my absolute favorite. My dad got me into superheroes and all sorts of cool geeky stuff, and so I would make my own X-Men comics out of folded up printer paper, and had a lot of fun doing that. And the more I drew, the more he encouraged me to draw. He also had artist friends who would come over the house and they would all paint together, and we'd go over to their houses and they'd paint. And his even though my dad didn't have professional uh, art jobs in the industry, he had friends who did, and so I got to meet some pretty cool people. Um, and Like people who had made their own comic books, people who had worked on animated films. Um, the the creator of Jimmy Neutron. um, he wasn't one of my dad's friends, but I did get to meet him through one of my dad's friends, which was pretty cool. Um, so yeah, I didn't even realize like how special that was at the time, to be around so much art. And my dad always encouraged me with it. And I was even planning on going to uh, college for art, uh, but the courses there were a little strange. The professors would like draw on your work, and like if you picked a color, it's like, oh, I'm painting this color in this spot and that color in that spot. They'd be like, oh no, that should be red, and they'd paint on it, and it's like, what? Why are you doing that to my art? And so just a lot of weird things that didn't really make me feel like I was learning, but just felt really random and like someone else was taking ownership of my work. Really turned me off of it. And so I ended up going for an English degree instead. Focused on creative writing, um, and even thought I might go that route and do screenplays. I did write a screenplay, never optioned it or anything, uh, but I did enjoy writing it at the time. And I played around with some other ideas. Um, I'm even in process of writing my own novel. I've got almost 200 pages of it written so far. That's been a work in progress for about 10 years or longer. Maybe more like 11 now. Um, anyway, I'm trailing. I'm going way off topic. Uh, but yeah, I learned art from my dad and watching him and watching his friends. We'd go to conventions, um, up in New England where I grew up. We'd go to conventions in like Boston and Connecticut. There were science fiction and fantasy conventions, and my dad would display his art there. So I got to meet a lot of people that he knew when we'd go. There was one time I even displayed my own art as a teenager. Um, I didn't really know anything at the time about like copyright laws and stuff. I was just a teenager, so I drew fan art and even sold a piece. I wouldn't do that anymore. Um, but at the time, it felt pretty good. Trying to think what else. Um, oh, yeah, getting back to the college stuff. So when I was in college, and I went that route for writing, um, because I had been turned off, that was my second opportunity for art that really just turned me off of it. I went to a vocational program when I was in high school. We took a bus to a different school, and we spent half the day there. And I was in a graphic arts program, and I thought I'd be learning how to do basically what I'm doing here now, like digital painting and graphic design and things like that. But our teacher didn't really teach. Basically, just gave us a book and said, read that chapter and do that activity, and then had us grade each other. And it's not the most effective way to learn or feel motivated to learn when your grade depends on other teenagers who don't have experience and who, have moods that change from day to day. So, uh, in the I did that my sophomore and junior year of high school, and then you're supposed to do it for 3 years, and the third year you would get like an internship and work with a company for some of the days that you're not in the program. Um, and I just really didn't want to be in that for another year. I really liked the group of people I was learning with, but I didn't feel like I was learning and growing enough to make it worth my while. And so I said, I really just need to get my normal credits and do stuff that's going to prepare me for college, because the vocational program isn't necessarily college bound. Um, it's more like professional working industry kind of stuff focused. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to a 4 year school. I need normal credits. So I didn't pursue the third year, and I took normal classes instead. Had a lot more fun. Took a regular art class that I always looked forward to. And so that was just a better way to end my high school. Um, so that was the first kind of turn off I had for art, was that graphic arts program. And then to go to college and hope to pursue art just to have those teachers do all sorts of weird things instead of actually helping me to learn and grow, that was a big turn off. So uh, knew I could always practice and learn things on my own, and so I pursued English instead. Something else that I felt pretty confident with was my ability to write. And then after I graduated, moved out to California and ended up becoming a teacher. And I taught I was at a school for 11 years, 7 of which was full-time teaching. Um, the first 4 were kind of a mix of like extended care, after school stuff, clubs, as well as like lunchtime supervision and a tutoring program that I helped run and facilitate and was kind of like the lead tutor for. So definitely not art related. And during that time that I was in California away from my family, things went really bad for my dad's health. And at one point, he had continued to lose his eyesight since I was in high school, but at one point, during my time in California, he went completely blind. And so when he was like my motivational uh, art inspiration. And so to have him not be able to see my work anymore, that was a big emotional hit. And so it made me not want to do it anymore after all those, experiences in school where art just wasn't what I was hoping it would be, or art learning wasn't what I would hope it would be. Just to have my dad not be able to see my stuff anymore, it was really discouraging. So I barely did any art for, I want to say, like, oh boy, years. I don't know how many years exactly, but years. And then I stumbled across a YouTube channel with a Disney animator, former Disney animator, Aaron Blaise. And uh, it was like exactly what I had always wanted, someone to actually give me pointers and tips, even if it wasn't directly to me, um, but just to get me motivated, get me back thinking about what I can do to grow as an artist. And so I learned a lot from him. I watched a lot of his YouTube videos, practiced on my own, played around with digital software, ended up getting my first digital monitor, which was a 19-inch Huion canvas, and really learned a lot during that time. And eventually moved away from California, moved to Florida, and he had a workshop, an in-person watercolor workshop, that the school that I was working for was willing to pay for me to go to. And so I got to meet him in person and learn from him in person, along with another one of his animator friends, Ronnie Williford, who worked on Lilo and Stitch and a bunch of other animated films. Mulan. They both worked on Mulan together. And Aaron directed Brother Bear. He also was one of the animators for the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, and he designed and animated Nala in The Lion King. His credits go on and on, but just getting to meet him in person and learn from him in person was crazy inspiring. And so, as much as I had seen myself improve in art and digital art, actually meeting him and learning from him in person, or both of them really, was a big, huge leap for me. My artwork really took off. I'm not bragging. I'm really just taking note of who I owe the credit to. Without that workshop, I wouldn't have the confidence that I have right now in my own art ability, and I definitely wouldn't have the same amount of output for my art that I do. And they were both encouraging. I still keep in contact with both of them, and they're super inspiring. And I even told Aaron he's been like my art dad since my dad passed. So it's really cool. I wish I could relive that experience over and over again. It's like one of my favorite moments of my life. Um, so yes, to answer your short question with a very long response, there it is. More recently, I've gotten to meet another one of my art inspirations, Rob Kaz. I even got to work for him at the Epcot Festival of the Arts. And asked him a lot of questions and talked with him a lot, and he's really great. Yeah, yeah. No, it was a really great experience. And it feels, I told him it felt more like helping a friend than actually working. Got to meet a lot of really great people during that event. Going to keep that background one out of focus. All right, it's starting to look more and more like a good solid image. I really like when I look over at the navigator here. Um, if I can look at this and tell what I'm looking at, it means I'm doing a good job. So I feel like I can tell that it's penguins in this little one. So let me check the other socials just in case somebody's chatting along. All right, cool. Oh, thank you. Good. That's what I'm looking for. I left out Cheezoid. I think I said that right. Thank you. I left out a big part of my art journey, which was Animation Mentor. I have a certificate in character animation from Animation Mentor. I did that for 2 years. Um, got to learn from different animators who worked at Pixar and DreamWorks and Disney, both old Disney and new Disney. I also took some workshops through Anim School and Anim Squad and got to learn from people through those too. Still say hi to some of them on and off. They remember me. But animation's a different beast than just painting. It's also a lot more competitive. Oh, thank you. Great. I'm glad I said it correctly. All right. It's time to start adding some details. Let's see. Probably going to go a little more in this direction, a little more there. How does... What layer am I on? Let me make a new layer before I get too far in this. Boop. That's the one thing I really like about digital, is that aside from the fact that it doesn't make a mess, I can hop between layers, do all sorts of really detailed stuff, and then hide it if I don't need it or I don't like it anymore. It's really great. Can go back and forth between layers. Don't have to worry about putting a value down that doesn't work anymore, or oh no, I spilled the paint and now my image is ruined. I don't have to worry about that. So this goes and it curves back. Oh, speaking of my writing, I also have a newsletter on Substack where I talk about my art and my photography. It's called Through Lens and Brush. And so if you look me up on there or look up Through Lens and Brush, you can find my Substack and subscribe for free to that if you like stuff that I do and you like animals. I focus on a different animal every week. This week's was orangutans. And basically in every issue I focus on a different animal that I have photographed and also painted. And I talk about my thought process about each one, as well as like things that I observe about every animal that I feature. So something recent that I've started. I will eventually turn on the paid version. Right now, all of it's free. When I turn on the paid version, there'll be a portion of each article that's free that everyone can experience. It's probably good for that wing. I don't know what my streaming is going to look like for the next couple of weeks. I will be trying to make it work, but I've got some family stuff. So if I can be on, I will be on. If I can't, I'll post that I won't be able to. But it'll only be about 2 weeks worth of time. But I'm still hoping I can keep to my streaming schedule as normal. Okay, let's see. And add, let's see, a little bit of this over here. And if you do like my art and you do like my streams and videos and stuff, and you know other people who might like it as well, especially as I'm in the early stages of this channel, um, the more people who know about it, the better. So if you have anybody that would benefit from having it shared to them, that would be, I would be more grateful than I can say. Awesome. Yeah, I'll be happy anytime anyone joins. Sometimes I'm just on here by myself. It's always better when there's other people I can talk to. And like I said, if you have any other questions or things as the stream continues, feel free to ask. Talk about it. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Yeah, ever since I started my business at the end of last year, I'm kind of learning everything as I go. So, um, I've already seen some successes here and there, and any little success that I see, I consider a victory, and it keeps motivating me to keep going. Should probably uh, generate some talking points myself. Um, does anyone have a favorite artist that inspires them? Someone that you go to, whatever kind of art you do, or things that just kind of inspire you in general, even if you don't do your own art? Is there like a person that you go to or think about a lot? Um, Because if I don't know them, then I like to I like to discover things. So any cool suggestions, I am down to look into myself too. Bye, Cheezoid. Have a good night. Uh-oh. I have a tangent. No, no, no. I must correct this. That's better. Back to this color. No favorite artist. That's okay. I've uh, I've met both of my favorites. Uh, well, all three of them. Um, Aaron Blaise is fantastic. Ronnie Wilford and Rob Kaz. And the more I get to know them, the higher they go in that favorite ranking. What about favorite animated film? Alright, I think I'm just going to fill in the eyes. And then I'm going to have to call it a night, unfortunately. But I do like how this one's coming out. Pretty happy with it. Let's see, put the... Oh, actually, let's make a new layer. Gonna go ahead and save this. Save as Penguin Stream. Save it right to the desktop. And let me see, save as, let's save it as a Photoshop document. And then I'm gonna save it as a PNG. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate having more and more people come all the time. I will catch you in the next stream, hopefully. And until then, have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.